To a certain degree. We moved to insurgency. The greater lesson that this is about the societies in conflict we seem to have missed, because there's this huge argument now. Do we stay at the low intensity end? Do we stay at the insurgency end? Or do we go to the high intensity? There's actually a push to go back to network-centric warfare. The air-sea battle idea, we don't say China, but obviously we're talking about China. And this will be a technological fight, and therefore we've got to look at technology. So I don't think the underlying, the fundamental core lesson wasn't learned. From the School of Hard Knocks, we learned a lot about fighting an insurgency. But we also, I did not write a lot about counterinsurgency. I was writing about insurgency and evolution of insurgency. One of the things we haven't figured out is that going direct and large doesn't seem to work. That's a recent piece I did for a study on the future of counterinsurgency. If you go direct, where you fight and you govern, like Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, you create a perverse counter-incentive. The local government doesn't want to get better, because if they do, you leave and you take all your money with you. So the only person who wants to leave this situation is you. The insurgents may want you out of there, you want out of there, the host nation government and the people in the surrounding communities don't want you out of there because you're pumping huge amounts of money in, etc. So I think if we go back to the more successful models of small and indirect, which would be the Philippines in the 50s, the Philippines today, Colombia, El Salvador, and even Thailand in the police campaign on the border. In each of those cases, we stayed indirect and small. And as a result, we had very modest strategic goals. And we focused on our strategic goals, not on reshaping an entire society. We weren't going to create this new democratic society. We were simply going to make this society good enough to get past the crisis it was in. And it worked. That would be the lesson I would learn out of this. I would say, okay, again, study the society that's going to be in conflict. Probably an important rule, don't knock over other governments without any plan of how to replace them. So if we don't go around and replace another government, we probably don't need to do big counterinsurgency again. We can do small and indirect, and many of the skills we've learned in the last 10 years will be very applicable.